In this video, we're going to look at memoir mishaps and what we can learn from them. Hello, I'm Brenda. This is Write Your Story, and I love to help you to write your memoir. So Glenn left this comment after one of my videos on the difference between creative expression or rules for memoir. Which one is it? And I found that his comment was so pertinent. There was so much that he shared that we could mine and learn from, or just be reminded of as memoir writers, that with his permission, I have done a video on his comment. So let's look at what Glenn had to say. A few years ago, I wrote over 70,000 words without knowing anything about writing. It was over 200 pages of self-expression. And I was very impressed with myself until I sent out the first couple of chapters for review. One stinging response was, "Have you ever read a memoir?" So first off, let's give kudos to Glenn. I want to highlight the 70,000 words and over 200 pages. Actually, he says over 70,000 words and over 200 pages. That is a lot of writing. That is a lot of discipline. That is a lot of putting your butt in the seat and getting your writing done. He obviously started with a lot of gusto and passion, and he saw it through. And I think as writers, that is a key element we all need to get started and to keep going, to put our butt in the seat, to know what the end goal is and to go for it, because we can run out of steam along the way. So kudos for Glenn for getting started and getting those 70,000 words on the page. However, it was over 200 pages of self-expression. Now, if you've been watching my videos and following on my YouTube channel, you will know that our memoir is not all about us. It is not merely a means to express ourselves. It is not merely a means to document everything that has happened in our life. Not if we want to turn it into a readable memoir. Stream of consciousness writing or stream of thoughts writing has its place to get us started as a warm-up exercise, or to mine that place in our story that needs to be told. I love stream of consciousness writing for that reason, but it isn't what we can package to the reader because it's hard to read and the reader will lose interest. Stream of consciousness writing is actually a way of writing. Some very famous writers have written stream of consciousness, such as Virginia Woolf in her story Mark on the Wall. But I can tell you now, even though it's stream of consciousness for the narrator, it is a well-constructed, deliberate piece. And that's what we're looking for when we write our memoirs. Well-constructed, deliberate. Memoir has a format as a genre. I was very impressed with myself. I think as writers, we often vacillate between that place of feeling very strong and positive about our writing and proud about what we've accomplished, and then hitting the depths of despondency when things don't go well. I know I can really struggle with this imposter syndrome that as writers we all grapple with. But we also grapple with these highs where we think we're just the best and the finest. And we really need to find that middle road where our writing is something we're good at, something that brings us life, something that is really transforming and we love. But it needs to also live separately from us so that we don't get too prideful and we don't get too despondent, that we actually can participate in creating a piece that can exist apart from us, because ultimately many of us find, if not most of us, that when we've written our piece and we go back and we read it later, we go, wow, did I write this? It seems to have a life of its own. Because it does. It's a story that wants to be told. And when it's told, you are the vessel for telling that story. And so when you're proud or when you're despondent, you become the person on the page that dominates the story. It becomes about you. Do watch my video on how to be invisible on the page. The wake-up call, of course, came for Glenn when he sent out the first few chapters to read for review, and he got that stinging response. have you ever read a memoir? We do need to read the genre that we're writing in. And I think for many of you, you have read memoirs. You do read memoirs. And so can I encourage you to continue to read memoirs and to find memoirs that actually will expand how you want to write, or will actually encourage the way that you write, and to look at them from a different perspective, not merely just as the reader. But if you're not reading memoir, you are missing out on the ability to actually become familiar with the language of memoir writing. But what else can we learn from this comment? Have you ever read a memoir? We can learn to receive criticism well. Look for people who will read your memoir, who will give you honest to goodness feedback, who will explain to you exactly what your memoir is missing. They will not stroke your ego. They will give you the feedback you need so that you can be a better writer. And you would do well to receive criticism well, to be constructive about it. And Glenn did that. He received the criticism and he went to work on what needed to be done. Following on the comment of, have you ever read a memoir? This is what he goes on to say. Others, other readers, were kinder, putting an emphasis on the prose and my ability for emotional expression, rather than the unequal bulk of telling versus the skimpiness of creating scene and showing. Rewriting and creating scenes are much more daunting, as you put it, than my fingers keeping pace on the keyboard with my stream of thoughts. When we get feedback on our material, or when we get feedback on our memoirs, once they're published, we will get positive and negative feedback. Now, the negative feedback is good, as I've mentioned, when it's constructive feedback from people who know what they're talking about, who care about you and your material. Negative feedback from naysayers, negative feedback from the people who suffer from too tall poppy syndrome, negative feedback from the people who don't want you to play it big, who want to keep you down in the hovel with them, in the crab bucket with them, is feedback we need to not listen to. And our problem as people and our problem as writers is the negative feedback has way more emphasis in our lives than the positive. So when the negative is constructive, we receive it. When the negative is deconstructive or destructive, we put up a barrier against it and we recognize it for what it is. And the positive feedback is so important, because that is really where we also need to go to say, you can do this, you do have the means for doing this, you have what it takes. You need to learn to work on the things that need more time, or they need more experience, or they need more teaching, or they just need you to rework, rewrite. Because as Glenn says, it's way more daunting to do it properly by writing the scenes that he needs to write, by putting in the dialogue perhaps that needs to be put in. It takes time, it takes perseverance. I know when we finish the piece, we want to be able to say, gone, done and dusted. We don't want to do the rework, but it's important to do the rework and to balance it with what we're good at, with what we need to learn. And so therefore, this is really a key piece that Glenn did. He is working through his manuscript again. He's working on his memoir again. He's making it better, following the genre, the literary devices that he needs to write memoir. But because he jumped in, because he got started, he has a wealth of material he can work from. And so this is what his final comment is that I'm going to close this video with. If I had started out correctly, I probably would never have gotten past writing the first page. If you're wanting to connect with other memoir writers, send me a note. I'm going to put a link below for you to do that. Otherwise, I will see you in my next video as we look at how to write our memoirs.